Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Good morning. Hi. My name is Robin and I'm codependent.
Hey, Robin.
Hi. I want to thank everybody for coming to this workshop and taking part in your recovery. Today we're going to talk about positive affirmations, what they look like, what they sound like, and I would like to also cover a little bit about negative affirmations because they can impede our recovery and they're so easy to do. So I'd like to start with the opening prayer, so if we could have a moment of silence. In the spirit of truth and love, we ask our higher power to guide us as we share our experience, strength, and hope. We open our hearts to the light of wisdom, the warmth of love, and the joy of acceptance. Thank you. Okay, well, to start out today, we always talk about CoDA tools. I hear that in all the rooms, so I brought my CoDA tools today. And I'm actually carrying mine in the tool bag. I actually have two. As you can see, they're different sizes and for a good reason. This one, and I didn't label them because I actually am going to use them again later. This is the negative tools that we might carry around. So this will be a part of the group participation. You're going to help me figure out what these things are in here. So who could tell me in the light of negativity, and if we're using negative affirmations, what this could symbolize?
Beating yourself up.
Beating yourself up. So we got the hammer.
Old friend.
All right.
Old enemy.
All right, this might be an easy one, but how about this one?
Screwing yourself.
Screwing things up. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah. How many times have any of us said, "Oh man, I know I'm going to screw it up," or "What if I screw it up?" So that's the screwdriver. All right. How about this one?
Perfectionism.
Out of balance, perfectionism. Yeah. So when things get out of balance, that little bubbles just can never get it in the middle if we're thinking negatively. So, all right. How about this one? Picking people apart, pliers. Yeah. Or sometimes it's like we have to. What was I thinking? Pry the answer out of ourselves. Yeah. Prying into other people's business, maybe. Taking other people's inventory, and then lastly. Yep, or never measuring up. Depending on what family of origin you come from, there's been times I heard people many times in the room say, "I never measured up." So that's right. All right, so there's that one. This is my better one here. This is my favorite one. These things you'll recognize. Actually, that's just water I brought today. All right. Recovery. So the blue book. All right, this is, as you can tell, one of my favorites because it's all beat up here. All right, here is a journal for keeping track of our progress and affirmations and anything good that might be going on in our lives. All right, affirmation booklet, which I bought this one this morning because I had mine. I carried it in my pocket so much it all fell apart. Now this, you can't tell probably from there, this is an MP3 player for meditation, spending time reflecting on positive things. That's what that is. And how about this one? Cell phone for reaching out. Yeah.
Nice.
It's hard to do sometimes, but it's amazing the effect that it can have when you reach out and take that, 30 seconds to call and stay on the line if they answer and say, "Hey, I need some help." And then it's one of my favorites in this moment, staying in the moment. So, and there's a pen. So that was to grab your attention there. So, thank you. Let's see. So for the next few minutes, we're going to talk about the affirmations, and then when we do our breakout time, you guys are going to actually come up with some affirmations yourself. And let's see. Okay, can I see a show of hands on how many people already use positive affirmations, like in their recovery as a daily thing, possibly?
Planning.
Okay, or planning on using them. Yeah. Okay, how many people know that they use negative affirmations? See, very easy to do. And so that's what I want to help us do today, is learn how to take a negative affirmation, turn it around, make a transition statement, turn it into a prayer if that works for you, and then a positive affirmation. Let's see, and I want to touch on perception. This is the old adage, if it's half empty or half full. But there's a lot to be said for that, because what I found, I'm only 6 years old in CoDA, but what I've found is how I look at things, how I perceive things is really what happens is how I act out, whether it's in a positive way or in a negative way, is how I perceive things, because how I see something might not be how it actually is. And this program has taught me to really look through the eyes of CoDA, to go from in here and look out through instead of just think from my brain and look through my eyes and assume what things are. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience, strength, and hope in CoDA. I'm 6 years old, so I'm a little first grader. And I am the youngest of 9 children. I grew up in San Diego, and my parents, my dad was a doctor, my mom was a homemaker. And they're very loving people, but they were lost in their addiction of alcoholism. So we had this really interesting dynamic of funny, silly, positive people on one hand, and then negative drinkers on the other hand, who they would start out happy and then end up fighting. So it was very hard for me to understand anything about like positive affirmations or stuff like that, because it just wasn't talked about. There was encouragement. I remember they were only with me until I was 17 or 16 when my mom died, and 17 for my dad. So there wasn't very much talk about self-love, self-help, or positive affirmations. It wasn't really said. So anything I learned about that came not until I was in CoDA. So it was a long time later. And so I'm thankful for this program today for that. And let's see, I'm going to read this part because this was really important to me. It said, I now have a new understanding of how to replace false patterns of thinking with new, positive, affirmative thinking that helps me choose towards my passions in life, rather than continuing to be stuck. I'm a true believer that the subconscious mind picks up on what we feed it, whether it's negative or positive statements or energy. We can replace these old negative tapes with new, positive, life-changing ones. Using positive affirmations and turnaround statements has helped me live a less stressful life and helped me keep in the moment. So that's something that I'd never heard of, staying in the moment before CoDA. And it's amazing to me the difference that it makes. And what I do is I ground myself in the moment of where I am, like being in this room right now, and then look at it through the positive light and the affirmations and the things that I learn here. Because it's very easy to find something negative in everything. I have a family member who can easily do that, and they don't even know they're doing it. And then when I pick up on it, I'm like, well, what am I like? Is that what I'm doing? And so I'm always trying to think of not how do people, what do they think about me? Oh, I don't know what they think. But how do I present myself as a spiritual being, as a friend, as a coworker? I'm unemployed right now, but CoDA helped me in my last job to really realize that if I could look at the positive in a place that sometimes was very difficult to work in, it made my whole day go different. And when I wasn't doing that, I know it was a choice to center on that negative, and then I'd kind of ruin my own day and blame it on other people. And so people would tell me, well, I see a difference in you, and what is it, and that's what I would choose to do. And I worked with developmentally delayed and physically handicapped teens and adults who, most of them were nonverbal, non-ambulatory. So anything that I was dealing with in that work that seemed, oh, this is negative, and I would look at these teens and these adults who couldn't do anything and realize how good that I had it. And so I would pick the good things out of my situation there and see what can I look at and what's positive. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about is using the affirmations in the workplace, because some of my sponsees will talk about negative affirmations that they use without realizing it in the workplace that keep them feeling stuck at their job, whether it's nobody likes me, I don't get things done right, they're not speaking to me, they must be mad at me. It's all about perception. And good communication and trying to look at things in a positive light can often dispel those myths of, wow, that person doesn't like me, when it could have absolutely nothing to do with them. Something I wanted to talk about also is what I said earlier about converting. So I'm going to give example of a negative affirmation that I would use often, and we'll write it up here on the board, and then I'll get some help from you guys too. So a good example here is I never get anything done around the house. That's something that is so easy to say, and to look at a mess and say I never get anything done around the house. So that would be the negative statement. And I'm going to keep going while she's writing, but a more truthful transition statement would be, I do get some things done around the house. Because the reality of the situation is never is probably not a very truthful word most of the time, but it's so easily used. Then I've heard before that people say, well, the promises and the affirmation, those are all good, but I don't feel them. They don't seem true to me. And if you've heard of, how many people you ever heard of acting as if? Yeah. And if you come from a background where you had to act like you were happy because you weren't allowed to show emotions, or you had to act like you liked something that your mom made for you to eat and you didn't, acting as if might be hard at first. But in the light of looking at positive side of it, acting as if is really trying to step into that positive light until you feel it, until it becomes true for you. And so that's you can keep writing. So the more truthful is I do get something. So the prayer would be, Lord, please help me get more things done around the house. Could be your higher power. You can say whatever works for you in that sentence. So help me get more things done around the house. Then the affirmation would be, I am proud of myself and thankful for what I do get done around the house. Because then there's not a measure there there's no measure for failure, because if your goal is to get something done and you got something done, then you're 100% successful. So what I try to do in my program is make sure that my goals are attainable. I look through the eyes of CoDA and run it by my higher power and see what is it that I can do in my life, in my job, in my relationships. And that's something that helps me to stay more positive and to be able to stay in the moment. Because if I'm sitting in a meeting, there's been times that I've sat in a meeting and I consciously made a decision to make a codependent decision later. By sitting here thinking, okay, later I'm going to say this to my daughter, or I'm going to do this, knowing those are codependent acts, they're negative, and yet I thought about it. And so by staying in the moment, that leaves no room for mulling over those control things or negative issues. And so it's definitely work. We say it works if you work it, and that's true, because I know in my life when I'm not working my program in a positive light, things start to trickle down and I start feeling a victim and I start thinking, gosh, what's wrong with everybody? And then I look at myself, well, what is it about me that I can work on? Because we can't do anything about anybody else or everybody else. It's what we can do for us. So another thing I wanted to bring up is positive words versus negative words. We've got can versus can't, will versus won't, do, don't, can't. And for me, trying to eliminate and it's not like we don't ever use them, but trying to eliminate words like always and never and using I statements helps stay in the positive, because especially if it's a communication with family member or coworker, it can shape your conversation by how we use those words. And I am by no means an expert at any of this, but having to grow myself up, because when my parents passed away, being the youngest, you would think, well, somebody would help me out, but nobody did. So I had to find a place to live, finish high school, all those fun things. And I can't imagine what life would be like if I hadn't known anything about the positive things like this. But what I did is I grabbed onto my higher power, which I just always believed in since I was a little girl. It's just something that he blessed me with. And I would just give everything to him, say, I guess it's going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay. And my being in CoDA and using these tools and staying in the moment is what has helped me when those insane moments come, or I've heard it said, when the committee starts talking. And in fact, even when I agreed to do this workshop, I was all excited about it. Next day, the first thought was, what did I do that for? And then I'm like, okay, so the negative thinking started. And I'm like, well, I'm doing it because it's service work. It's because I learned from it, and it's to work with you guys. So that's why I was excited about doing it. But if I had stayed on a train of thought of negativity, I wouldn't be standing here today, and you guys would have walked into an empty room. So I'm glad I didn't do that. Let's see. Let me look at the time here. Okay. We're also going to have a question and answer time, and then I would like you guys to share some things that work for you for positive affirmations and what you use. I know there's a lot more tools besides the ones that I brought as far as booklets and stuff, but those are the ones I had with me today. So before we do break up into groups, is there any questions that anybody had? Is anybody new to CoDA, new to the conference? 3 months in CoDA. Well, thank you for coming. Congratulations. So is positive affirmation something that you've already been learning about and using, or? Yeah. This one is a little affirmation book, and I apologize. We were going to have some affirmations that I made up, and the copies didn't arrive. Some of them were out of this little booklet, and some of them actually made up myself, and we can make up some today. But this one is all positive. It's at the table. And the Newcomer's Handbook has actually a lot in there. I don't know if you guys have noticed that in the back, but I use that one a lot too. So, and you can pull that out at any time and be able to look at those. So I allow myself to be happy. I'm a worthwhile person. I'm clear on what I need to do today. So they're really good statements. So are there any other?
Because I have read those positive affirmations. They all sound good, but the habits that I have lived with for so long is like, oh gosh, I'm not good at math. How to say it in different ways,
Oh, okay. I get.
Examples like that.
Yeah,
And that's always my question.
Okay, I'm sorry. There isn't that I know of there, but that's what we're going to work on today. So we can take one of your statements, or you can take some of yours, and we can work on transitioning them. This is just something that I came up with for myself that works to get myself out of that negative thinking. And what I've learned is the more I repeat these, and that's what these cards are going to be for when you make up your own, and you can put it somewhere for you, is the more we look at them and repeat them, the more ingrained it comes, so that the mind would automatically go to the positive versus the negative, because it's really about retraining. Because if we were told growing up negative things over and over, especially when we're young, our mind tends to believe those things. And especially, like, I avoided college for a long time because of speech. You can't do it. Well, who knows, because I didn't do it. I didn't take it. And I was scared to death, and it stopped me from things in my career. Nobody told me I could do it. It wasn't a thought that I could. And so by putting things down, I have a vision board at home. Does anybody here have anything like that? Do you have vision boards? And mine is corkboard. It's by my computer, and all that's on there is positive things. If I was in business, it would probably, my brother is in business, and this is all things that he wants to attain. Mine are all pictures of my grandson, my partner, positive statements, things I've cut out of magazines, like the word passion or truthfulness, just different things like that. And that helps just get that negative thought out of there and just see that positive. So anytime I sit down at the computer, I see those positive words. Does anybody want to share about their vision board, what kinds of things they put on it?
So, I didn't really put much faith in it, but I had it on the wall open, so I glanced at that to the wall and that, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So just things that I had that came into my life, and I just thought, oh my God, this thing has to do for 5 minutes, so I have to do that way. But it is powerful. It's amazing how powerful the messages you give your subconscious is.
Right.
It's kind of scary when you try to start making the negative patterns thinking, and just there's such an effort in it. It's not going to be that, but it really is very, very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay.
It's just a question.
Okay.
How do you, if I give myself a positive message, I then qualify it with, but then, like if I say to myself, I'm good enough, but not at work, or, I find myself always translating or
Extending, yeah, that's.
so I have to shut that up.
I think for me and anybody else who wants to answer this for them as well is cutting it off at that point. If you notice yourself saying something like that, I'm good at this except for, cut it off right there, and don't even allow yourself to think that. What was mentioned before about the powerfulness is envisioning, picturing, because if we're planning to go drive somewhere, generally it's automatic to think which route we're going to take, and we're driving and we picture that. And so it's the same with envisioning the positive, this is our computer, it's our roadmap, it's what gets us where we're going. And so depending on what we're feeding it, we know that with healthy food versus not, that kind of thing. So feeding, just think of it as feeding, this is how I think of it, feeding the brain the positive. Because once I allow that negative, well, but, or yeah, but, or I don't know, then it just turns right back around again.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
In the back there?
I like what you just said because it's a practice of changing my way of thinking by choosing, and since of love and progress, not perfection. So if I find myself in a situation where I go, well, I'm good at this, but that but I can turn that into, okay, I'm really good at this, and I will be improving it. Take that but and make it better.
Right.
And I'm going to get better at work, and I'm going, and to watch myself make progress, not perfection, progress.
Right, I totally agree with that, because it's not like we're going to walk out of this workshop and all of a sudden, okay, I heard about positive things, so now I'm just going to be positive. I wish it worked that way, but it doesn't necessarily. So, and change, can be scary, but how great can it be? Because if the what ifs were all about what if the good thing happened and what if only good things happen or everything came true, the difference in the thinking. So,
I always
Gary?
remind myself that I'm doing the best I can, and if I could do better, I would be doing better. So I know that, just like she said, that I get rid of the but by saying I'm doing the best I can, and I know I will do better, as time goes on.
That's right. Thank you. Right here.
I recently came upon an affirmation from a book that is an action affirmation for me, because I'm finding that if I'm believing something negative about myself, it usually stems from something that I'm looking outside of myself, a person, place, or thing. So this affirmation that I use is probably the most powerful affirmation I've ever used. And it goes, you can change take that anger or that resentment, and I'm sitting on a big log in an area in the woods where there's this beautiful stream, and it could be any figure at all. I choose to use it, Jesus. He walks up, and I hand him this problem, this resentment and this anger. And the first time I did this, it was, I handed it to him, and he opened his hand, he took it, and he opened his hand, and a white dove flew out.
I like that.
So I do that frequently because my negative thinking is out of control, and I have to do something in a form of an action
Mm.
to take care of it so that it feels like it's really complete and it goes away, you know? That helps a lot for me.
Thank you. That is helpful to me too. I like that. Thank you. Another one that I've learned recently and has helped me because I'm a visual is I picture a balloon being filled up with helium, and inside of that balloon is my negative thoughts and my worries, and they're all like swarming around and they're like bees, and I let it go. And if that balloon starts to float back down, I flick it away. And if it won't leave me alone, I'll just pop it if I have to over water or something. But I picture those things just floating away, because it's so easy for me and for me it's during the waking hours of like anywhere from 2 to 5 in the morning if my grandson wakes up or something, and then I get him back to sleep, and then my mind starts going, and then I think, this is where I am right now. I'm laying here, and I start a gratitude list too in my head and start thinking of all the people that I'm grateful for and the things and the positive things, and that's what helps me get back to sleep. Otherwise, that negative thinking just comes, and I hear all these things like, well, you should have done this yesterday, and so on. And a good friend of the program recently said, sanity is the definition of giving up the hope of finding a better past. And that really touched my heart, because when I was 16 and my mom, she ended up overdosing, and we had all been home, and then we left, and for 20 years, I carried around, if I had just been home that night, she would have lived. And of course, through some therapy and self-help and in the program, I realized that had nothing to do with me. She made her own choices. If it wasn't that day, it probably would have been another. And so carrying around guilt that wasn't mine was a big deal, and that gets heavy. I used to be about 5'7" until I was carrying around all those guilt. Now look at me, 5'2". No, just kidding. But it does feel like that. And actually, when I was in right before high school, or actually when high school started, and my dad was still alive, and I went to a therapist, and she had me hold an ashtray up while I was talking, and I didn't know why. First time I ever talked to anybody, and I was sitting there feeling guilty about talking to her in the first place, and telling her blah 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 stories you wouldn't believe. And my hand starts going down. She gets angry. She's like, "Get your hand back up there. I told you to hold it." I'm like, okay, she's real nice, And at the end, she tells me, everything you told me was about somebody else in your family, what's going on. And there were things that were weighing me down, and she was explaining how that's weighing me down, and it really didn't have anything to do with me. And if I was to let those things go, the difference that I would feel in my life. And that is exactly what happened. And I've carried that with me all this time to realize when I'm fretting, if I'm thinking in the negative, what is it? Is it my stuff? Is it something I can proactively do something about? Or is it something that's none of my business? And how many people in here have heard, if it doesn't affect my breathing, it's none of my business? Hear that all the time. And for me, there's sometimes it does affect my breathing with, say, my daughter, living with me and making decisions that I don't feel are best for her. Well, that affects my breathing because we live in the same house. But really, I realize how important is it to do anything about it. And by focusing on the positive in her, it has helped me see her in a different light and let her grow and make mistakes on her own and grow on her own. Where before learning to do those things, I would have been, well, you should do this and you should do that. And my shoulds are certainly not always right, or I wouldn't probably even need to be here today. So I'm excited that for me, CoDA is not something that's ever graduated for me. It's something I get to do for as long as I'm willing and able. And when I walked into the rooms, I remember the readings were going on. Oh, they're going to read those every time. I didn't know if I was even going to come back to a meeting because I thought every time, and now I look forward to it. And same with, and the interesting part is I looked up on the internet when my therapist said, you don't really need to be here, you need to be in CoDA, and I didn't know what it was. And I'm reading and it says defective characters, and that was it. I saw that negative word and I'm like, who are they to call me defective? You know, who are these people? I'm not defective. God doesn't make defective people. And then I kept reading and I read the patterns and characteristics, and then I read the promises and the promises that for a better hope in the future just was amazing to me. Like, wow, can these things really happen? So I thought, I'm going to go check it out. And of course, I remembered I walked into the room. I walked by 5 people and not one said hi to me. I almost turned around and walked away, and I thought, no, that's going to look really bad on you, so just stay here. So I stayed in there, and it turned out later I found out all 5 people were brand new. It wasn't just me. So they were just as nervous as I was. And then a good friend of mine walked into the room that I didn't know was in the program, and I just felt a peace coming over, and I felt at home. And that was my first week in CoDA. The next week was the Southern California Conference in San Diego. And so I got to go and probably meet some of you there and see, wow, there is something to this. And that's what's helped change my life. So are there any more questions before we break up into, we're going to work on our own affirmations. So what I'd like everybody to do is start thinking about a negative affirmation that you use or a negative statement. Yeah, I don't know if we can have that turned down. Can we ask? Yeah, I felt like it just got louder. Do you know if we can turn this? You don't know? Okay. All right, I'll try to talk louder. Are there any questions before I give instructions for us to do our breakup work here on affirmations?
You're fine here. Maybe if you want to come up, I don't know.
Okay. I have some regular pens up here. These are little markers, and then some big markers, and this is notebook paper so you can write out your thoughts. I'm taking something, and if you don't have a negative one that comes to mind, you don't have to make a transition, but if you'd like to, what I'd like to do is take a negative, transition it, turn it into prayer if that's something that would work for you, and then a positive one. And then you can pick your color here and make one that you can keep. And just, I challenge you to see how that works for you. I know even something as simple as going into a crowd of people and just smiling and seeing what happens. I've tried this several times, walking down the road with a bunch of people and smiling and seeing the difference that I get versus looking like I'm angry. And to me, because when I grew up, people would walk by and say hi, you know, and that was just a common thing. And then I noticed as I got older, it just wasn't really a big deal anymore. People just didn't really say hi. So I would go to a mall and just start saying hi to people. How's your day going? And or especially in public places where DMV, you know, those kind of places where they're not too happy, to be working, it seems like, I don't know. And so my first thing I usually say is, how's your day going for you? You know, and I mean it. I really do care. I mean, yeah, I don't want their whole life story if they need to give it, you know. But to ask them how their day is going, it seems like it just changes things and even get better service. So that's just an added plus to that. So so if you want, you can come up here or I can bring it out to you. Paper, and we can do this. Right. Are we ready to start sharing, you think? We are? Okay. So. Okay. So now that I've drank some of my prop, I either hardly have anything left to drink or I have room for a lot more, so, you know. Okay, so with somebody who would like to come up maybe and share and we can put them up here, share your negative and then your transformation. Is there somebody who'd like to start coming up here maybe? Or we can write it for you if you don't want to come up, but we could do it that way. Would you like to? Okay. And feel free to say your name if you want, and if you don't, we can see your tag. So.
My handwriting, everybody was taking over.
Okay.
Okay, so the thing was, with people, like I feel like victims sometimes, you know, I expect them to do negative things, you know, say something negative, do something that gets on my nerves. And so instead of doing that, and I found like the thing was, I had difficulty in setting boundaries, you know, or saying speaking of my boundaries. So I put in, do I write like the negative stuff first?
Yeah, you can go ahead and put that.
So like expecting others to do something bad to me.
Yeah. So however you wrote it out there. And expectations, that's a good word because that all has to do with perceptions too. My greatest expectation is to not expect very much. I get hurt a lot less that way. Or to expect the best out of people because you never know, you know.
And the transition.
Mhm.
F. What was the transition? Okay. What I need, or to say to what I need.
Okay.
Okay, you can guess what the last one was. The last
That's
letter is
okay.
not. And then
Very good. I like that. Thank you. You know, like what I'd like to draw out of this, if you look at the negative, it's that expectation. That thought is about those other people. The conscious contact in our steps with the higher power, giving it over, so turning it over, and then at the end there, it's an I statement, which she's working on for herself. So it's not about those other people, because as you find out in the world, there people are always going to disappoint us, and then there's all those that aren't. So this is about yourself. So I like that. Thank you for sharing. Is there somebody else who would like to share one? Anybody? So, let's see.
I might just say mine aren't good enough. Who cares what I have to say? Okay, you gotta go.
Yeah, except I've heard yours. I know it's good, so I was hoping you were going to share it. So yes, yes.
What I do, I don't know.
Whichever one makes you feel good.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
I'm Deborah, codependent.
Hi, Deborah.
Okay. Negative. I don't want to host an event in July fundraising. I'm bad at this, okay? Okay. Transition. I do want to host an event. But the prayer, what happened to me, please help me to want to be willing if it is the Lord's will for event. Then what happened with the positive affirmation? I'm proud that I offered, but it's going to cost us $80 to have insurance, and we're only going to make maybe $100. And it's in July and it's hot. And all the, yes, Fresh and Easy is going to give us the food to make the fundraising, positive. But, so what I came up with is that I would be happy to cancel
Okay, and I'll talk to the board members and tell them. And if anyone else wants to take it on, they can. And if not, then in September at a nice air-conditioned facility, I'll have another event and still, you know, fresh and easy provide. So it was really a freeing thing because I've been telling myself this for months, and finally came here with steps to take action to be free from this negative talk. Now I can go on to something else. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. That was really good. And that brings up a point I was thinking about in talking with Deborah, is that when we start, it's easy to go with a negative thought because it's already in there and we already have those beliefs about ourselves. But then, as you can see, what happened here is she worked through it. She defined what her feelings were, decided, gave herself permission to feel her feelings, and then to make a proactive decision based on those feelings and not feel guilty about it because there's no reason to. And that's what I like about working through this program and working on these things. When I committed to this, right, not too long after, and in getting ready for the workshop, a family member got ill and passed away. And I am part of helping plan the service, but not, thankfully for this program, I didn't take over, didn't feel like I had to do everything for the service. And wanted to say, but could you not make it on today? But I didn't let myself say that because I figured my higher power would work that out. Well, it turns out the service is tomorrow. And any help that they need from me has been able to be done over the phone and while I'm up here. And so that all worked out. But the negative thought was, how could you leave town? Or what if they need you? Or what if you have to cancel at the last minute? What are these people going to think of you? Well, most of you I don't know, so you wouldn't have known me to think anything about me. But not only that, being that this program is about love and acceptance and not being judgmental, I knew that I was safe. And if I had to call up and say, I really hate to tell you this, but that it was going to be okay. And that took that pressure off. And of course, it all worked out. And so I'm better off for it and thankful for that I didn't let my negative thinking say, you can't get up there in front of these people. The date's not going to work out. You're going to get lost, and so on and so on. So I like this because I hadn't actually thought about it that way, of just working through it that way and those feelings. So that is really good. And that's going to help me in looking for employment. I had an injury a while back, broke my hip, had a surgery. Then I had to have it replaced. And who's going to hire me? And in meetings, I often hear people's horror stories of their bosses and their coworkers, which makes me afraid to go back to work. But I know I'm going to be fine. I've always had a good job. It's always been the right job for me at the right time. And so while it's scary living, you know, in the moment of, am I going to be okay? And I'm helping raise my grandson, I know it's going to work out, and it just continues to. And I refuse to believe that there's nothing out there for me that I can do. So that turning that negative thinking around is what's helped me just not go crazy during this hard time, because it's been really difficult. So is there somebody else who would like to share one? Okay, go ahead. And then behind you, you can, after you. We can, let me get another piece of paper for you. Thank you.
The negative is I relapsed. No excuse. I knew better. And then the transition is God was teaching me in a deeper way how my codependency, I'll just put co, truly operates. And allowing me to see my real.
That's good. And I do want to encourage everybody to, after you leave here, to make more affirmations. Draw out of your negative thinking and place them all around wherever you're going to see them that will help you have that better day. And when you're out in public, smiling at strangers, talking if that's comfortable for you, and just seeing the difference in what happens. And I would be surprised if you didn't come back and tell me that you saw a difference in people, just by looking into that positive light and seeing that first. It's very easy to see the negative in ourselves and in other people, but looking at it through the positive, it's amazing how the change can happen. And I think for me, that's how serenity happens as well. When I first had serenity in this program, I didn't know what it was, so I was sitting there thinking, what am I forgetting to worry about? And I actually said that in my head, what am I forgetting to worry about? And I realized it was my first experience with serenity since I had been in CoDA and understanding what it meant, and it felt so good. And then I let some of the negative thinking come back, and then I had to do it all over again. But that's it. That's the working process, is that it is attainable, it's achievable at any time, at any moment. And that's, again, with the tools, reaching out if somebody's in a hard spot and this just isn't working for you, then maybe you can call somebody up and get their idea of what might work for changing something to the positive, or what their higher power does for them, or that type of thing. And so there's all different kinds of tools and ways to take the negative and turn it around, and to start your day out good and end your day good, and everything in between. So I think we're ending a little bit early, but I want to thank everybody for participating and for helping me to learn and grow. And this has been a lot of fun for me. And thank you. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to end with the Serenity Prayer. And we can either circle up or we can do it from our seats. That's up to you guys. So, if you have any pens. So, all right. Well, we can do it from our seats, I guess. I don't think we can make a circle in here. Okay. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right. Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you very, very much.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.